How does one man conquer half of Europe? This question takes us back to the early 20th century, to the rise of a man named Adolf Hitler. Born in Austria, Hitler was a man of humble beginnings, a struggling artist, and a soldier in the First World War. But by the early 1930s, he had transformed into a charismatic leader, captivating the hearts of millions. The political climate in Germany was ripe for a strong leader. The nation was grappling with the aftermath of the war and the punitive Treaty of Versailles. The economy was in shambles and the people were disillusioned. Hitler, with his fiery speeches and promises of a better future, seized this opportunity. His political endeavors culminated in becoming the Chancellor of Germany in 1933, eventually consolidating his power as the Führer. And so Hitler, a man with a vision and an iron will, took the reins of Germany, setting the stage for a war that would engulf half of Europe. With power in his grasp, Hitler was ready to unleash his grand plan. The strategy he adopted was known as Blitzkrieg, a term coined by Western journalists, meaning lightning war. This military tactic was marked by swift, concentrated attacks aimed at shocking the enemy and causing disarray. Hitler began his aggressive expansion with the invasion of Poland in September of 1939. The Polish army was caught off guard by the sudden ferocious assault, and their defenses crumbled in less than a month. The world watched in disbelief as the Blitzkrieg tactic proved devastatingly effective. Next on Hitler's conquest list was France. In May of 1940, German forces bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line, invaded through the Ardennes forest, and made their way to Paris. France fell in just 6 weeks, a blow that shocked the world and solidified Hitler's belief in his invincible Blitzkrieg. But Hitler's ambition didn't stop there. He turned his eyes to the east, forming a strategic alliance with Italy and Japan, the Axis powers. In June of 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. The Blitzkrieg had been unleashed, and Europe trembled under its might. Hitler's aggressive expansion policies and strategic alliances had allowed him to conquer vast territories in a short span of time. But as we'll see, this rapid expansion would also stretch Germany's resources and military thin, setting the stage for the turning tides of war. But even the mightiest tides can turn. Indeed, the tide of World War II did turn, and it turned against one of the most formidable forces of the time, Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. The Battle of Stalingrad was a brutal confrontation between two superpowers, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. It was here that the relentless German advance was finally halted. The city was reduced to rubble, but the spirit of its defenders remained unbroken. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad was a pivotal moment in the war, marking the beginning of a series of defeats for Hitler's forces. Meanwhile, the Allies were planning their own offensive, an invasion that would become known as D-Day. The beaches of Normandy, France, were chosen as the landing point for this massive assault. On June 6, 1944, this ambitious operation was set into motion. It marked the start of a fierce and bloody campaign to liberate Western Europe from Nazi control. As the war dragged on, Hitler's strategies became increasingly desperate. He sought to create superweapons, to launch suicidal attacks, anything to turn the tide back in his favor. But the combined might of the Allies was too much for the Third Reich to withstand. As the Allies closed in, Hitler's dream of a 1,000-year Reich was crumbling. This was the turning point, a time of dramatic change that would shape the course of history. From the ashes of war, a new world was about to emerge. As World War II trudged into its final days, the Third Reich was crumbling. Adolf Hitler, the man who had once held half of Europe within his iron grip, was cornered. In a bunker beneath the churning streets of Berlin, he made the decision to end his own life. His suicide on April 30, 1945, marked the definitive end of Nazi Germany's rule. The following week, Germany unconditionally surrendered to the Allies, marking the official end of World War II in Europe. A world that had been consumed by conflict for 6 long years was finally allowed to breathe. In the wake of the war, nations were reborn, borders were redrawn, and the world began to heal. And so ended the reign of one man who dared to conquer half of Europe, leaving a legacy that the world would never forget.